Hey, all both of you. As much as I love playing video games, I think I like getting excited about them just a little bit more. Nothing gets me more hyped than a good trailer. And the reason trailers are so good is because any developer looking to get a product out there is taking a huge gamble. Marketing is going to step in, increase their budgets, and make sure that that big gamble is as safe a bet as it can be for the publisher.
There's been a transition over the years to not sell a game, but sell a feeling. Telling your target audience that a game has blast processing or 128 whole bits under the hood just doesn't carry the same weight that it used to. As games have gotten more mature, so too does the marketing around them. But sometimes, a marketing team does too good a job and creates a product better than the game it's representing. There's that old expression about turds and polishing them, but let me be clear. There's always something to love, even about the worst games, and for me anyways, a good trailer goes a long way. The games I'm here to talk about, none of them are bad. In fact, some of them are great, fantastic even. But the trailer sold a vision of the game that wasn't matched by the final product, and in this creator's humble opinion, exceeded the pedigree of the game entirely.
Alright, now this list is hardly something I would call comprehensive, but it is a list of games that I'm still thinking about years later. So without further ado, let's talk about 6 games that weren't as good as their trailers. But were still pretty good.
I know, right? Boom, bold, right out the gate. But don't worry, this one is kind of a cheat. What do you mean the trailer is better than Smash Bros. Ultimate? That game is incredible! Yes, the game is amazing. It's the first Smash Bros. That became an obsession in me. But the World of Light trailer was simply flat out better than the World of Light mode. We see the entire roster smashed to pieces by forces unknown, and it dared the audience to step in and save the day. It's by no means bad, but the frenzy, the speed, the constant momentum that's shown to us in the trailer was infinitely more fun than the 20 hours the game mode ended up being. Smash Bros. Ultimate is one of the Switch's best games for sure, but no one is thinking it's because of the story mode, it's because of everything else. Star Wars The Force Unleashed was the fastest selling Star Wars game and the fastest selling LucasArts game of all time, in addition to earning a Writers Guild of America award for Best Video Game Writing. A sequel seemed all but inevitable, and when the first trailer dropped, fans, especially me, were blown away by the promised struggle a somehow alive Starkiller would get being pulled by both the light and dark sides of the Force. As the tension reaches a crescendo, Juno Eclipse's voice chimes in and stops Starkiller cold in his tracks. We were promised an ambiguous story where there'd be real motivation on both sides for Starkiller's soul, but what we ended up with was an incredibly short campaign with a cut and dry narrative that offered little choice and relatively unpolished gameplay compared to the first. There's still fun to be had in the game, to be sure. Some of the set pieces were incredible, but the promise of the premise is never quite matched by the product. When a new generation of consoles first come out, gamers everywhere are starving for a new generation of games to justify them. It took a year, but the first Gears of War did just that for the Xbox 360, and man, chainsaws, am I right? But the marketing didn't lean on chainsaws. While every other TV spot at the time was getting louder to make sure they were heard, this Joseph Kosinski directed piece of art was being quiet to make sure you were really listening in the first place. This trailer is a masterpiece, but it's ultimately also a huge departure from the actual game. Like it or not, Marcus, Dom, Baird, and Cole were the epitome of everything big and loud and dumb and wonderful of the mid-2000s, and no amount of Gary Jules could cover that up. An incredibly ambitious endeavor at the time, Assassin's Creed 3 left fans with mixed feelings, as an impressive game world was beset by an extended tutorial that generally plagued games of the era, as they strived to be more friendly to first-time players. I enjoyed my time with the game, and yes, the Battle of Bunker Hill was in the game, but this trailer is just one of the coolest things that doesn't star Bruce Willis and rhyme with Krylard. The overwhelming hopelessness of the British advance, the symbolism of the eagle, the tense narration, and the lone figure in the familiar-looking cowl so singularly badass he humbles George Washington. This trailer still gives me chills, and is to date the best Assassin's Creed movie and the best unofficial sequel to Michael Mann's Last of the Mohegans ever made. A few years removed, it's impossible to overstate just what the Arkham franchise did for licensed video games. It was a series so fantastically made it ostensibly killed the market, so it makes perfect sense that all stops would be pulled out for the final word on Batman from developer Rocksteady. The game is good, I'm not saying it wasn't, but this trailer is simply one of the best pieces of Batman media, up there with The Dark Knight Returns and the almost Gotham episode of the animated series. Batman's physicality and his general iconography are juxtaposed brilliantly with an intimate reading of his father's last will and testament. We see villains preparing for war and eventually Batman meeting them on the battlefield. Most impressively, and more so than other games on this list, you get a feeling of finality without them ever saying so. Whether this ends up being the last Batman game in this universe or not, you just know you're going out with a bang. Also, the Batmobile is here, and that's neat. After this trailer released in 2011, speculation ran wild about what this new zombie franchise could mean for video games. Coming out when Walking Dead was must-watch TV, the production value on this non-linear trailer emphasized an emotional maturity rarely seen in games, and even rare from games about zombies. We don't just see a family on vacation being ripped apart by an outbreak, we see how hard they fought against the inevitable. Gamers eagerly awaited a zombie game with an intimate narrative that felt like it was saying more. What we got was Borderlands, with cricket paddles. The game isn't bad by any stretch of the imagination, but it's hardly great either. The trailer just killed this game. The game trailer dropped Jaws, and the game itself just dropped in price pretty quickly after its release because of a mediocre gameplay loop and more bugs than most driveways in the Midwest. As misleading as it is the cream of the crop when it comes to exceptional game trailers and what they can provide games in terms of buzz and hype. It's also why most gamers are pretty skeptical of games until they see actual gameplay now.
But hey, that was just one person's opinion. What about your person's opinion? Why don't you let me know any games you thought I missed? And until next time, I'll see you in another life, brother!